You are the most passionate about what you're building, and your passion is contagious. So, what is this magic sauce that is so critical in your early days is to share that passion with your prospects and your customers. Hello, guys. Today we have the most important topic of all. We are going to talk about sales, founder led sales playbook specifically, so that early stage strategy and tactics that every founder needs to tackle. Because as a founder, you're doing one of two things. You're either doing sales or you're building product. And many times those two are intertwined. So with that, I am super excited to introduce the agenda. First, we're going to cover why founders should be doing first sales, even if they've never sold before, how to get your first customers, the stages of the sales process, and then when and how you hire your first sales folks. So I have a question for you first. What is the number way to gain early traction for your startup? And oftentimes we are just lost as founders in all of these possible strategies: inbound, organic, SEO, Google paid, meta advertising, growth hacking, outbound, referrals, and display, and many, many, many other strategies. And while a number of them can be fundamental and key to your startup growth later stage, you cannot scale before you have product market fit. And what we're going to talk about today is founders doing things that don't scale. That's how you get your first customers. And that's really a step that you cannot skip. And in a moment, if you're doubting what I'm saying and not taking it for granted, I am going to talk about why. So founders must learn to sell before hiring others. Even if you're a founder who's abroad and is selling to US market and you're saying, hey, let me go and get this US magical salesperson who's going to get me my first customers. That is just not happening. And I'll tell you why in a moment. So first of all, you have to do whatever it takes to get your first customers and worry about scaling later. There are very few hired sales folks out there who will truly do whatever it takes. Because if they're any good, they have a really good job, and you have to convince them to come and bet on you when your success and your track record is not proven and you don't actually fully know what exactly you're building. Two is you are the most passionate about what you're building, and your passion is contagious. So it's really what is this magic sauce that is so critical in your early days is to share that passion with your prospects and your customers. And founders are the experts. They know more about the industry than any salesperson because you've studied it. You interviewed your customers, your prospects, you looked at a variety of reports. You really know how to have a conversation with the industry experts and customers and really drive that consultative sale as someone who knows a lot about the space. And then lastly, sales playbook is something that's changing and iterating as much as the product. So your ideal customer profile, your value proposition, your sales playbook itself require the same level of iteration as the product. And in fact, they iterate at the same time. In the early stages, you really need that to be all connected as a one body, as a one organism, so you can rapidly make progress and not waste any time and resources. And then lastly, the business you think you might be building is likely to change, right? And there are actually many ways to build a big business. And there is this really great representation of that, what a $100 million business can look like. And you might decide to go and find one elephant, which is, or 1,000 elephants paying you $100,000, or you might be chasing fleas. And in this case, you have to have completely different strategies. And so in your early days, you don't really know what kind of business you are going to be successful at. And that's why the speed of iteration is so, so important. And here, you can see that the strategies would change, right? So if you're truly building an elephant, then you need field sales, which look very different from deers, where you are selling it around $10,000 ARR, and that means that you need inside sales. And then the lower you go in terms of average deal value or contract value, the less reliant you are on sales, because it's just not sustainable. So you will need to do longer term, much more marketing, and perhaps your first hires would be on that side. So the other thing that is really, really important, scaling before initial product market fit leads to wasted resources, right? Imagine you're pouring a lot of marketing dollars in something that you don't know is yet working. And you also are perhaps acquiring maybe wrong customers that you cannot retain, because at the end of the day, if you can't retain and provide value that you promise, then you have no business, right? Retention is really key in building a business that can grow to millions and hundreds of millions of dollars later on. You're also facing learning opportunities because you don't have the time to really iterate on the product. And it could be that some of your early customers you will end up firing because their use cases are just not as important, and you discovered something that is much more valuable because you were in market and serving these customers. And then lastly, it can really kill your business, right? Not only you can waste resources and time, but you might actually run out of money while you are trying to scale something that is just not scalable. So at the end, you don't have retained customers that love your product and getting true value, and now you don't have the budget to continue iterating. So first things first, you have to get every stage of the steps in sequence, right? Not only the right strategies, but also sequencing in them in the right way. So why do many founders don't do it? Why they want to throw the sales over to someone else and really say, hey, I've built a product. Now you hired a salesperson, go sell it. Well, perhaps because many founders are technical and they think of a salesperson as this sleazy used car salesman, and nobody wants to look like this gentleman on the picture. Or you might recall a famous Alec Baldwin moment from a movie, Coffee is for Closers, and you think that you don't have the same level of communication skills and gravitas that he does. Well, the good news of this is neither of these pictures has anything to do with modern sales, because the modern sales are really about discovering pain, being helpful, being analytical, consultative, strategic, right? And so modern sales have these three attributes, which most technical folks and business folks really can already have, right? So first is it's strategic. You really need to sell to who you think your ideal customer is. And that again might evolve and change over time, but you are going after a particular persona. You're consultative, means you really want to sell to people who will get value from your solution. So let's say if your solution is for team communication and it's a solopreneur, you don't want to sell your communication tool for collaboration to that solopreneur, because it makes no sense. Even if they, for some reason, might want to pay you, because they will not get value, they'll not be retained, and you'll waste a lot of valuable resources and time. And lastly, you have to be very analytical, and not only in terms of metrics, but now there are so many tools that we'll talk about, leveraging AI and call recordings and other things. It is as much a science as it is an art. And when it comes to actually improving, let's say, your communication skills, or if you're an introvert and you want to learn to establish that rapport, which is critical for sales, is a simple hack can really get you there. And that simple hack is talk to people in your real life. If you have a doorman in your building or you meet someone in an elevator, just say, hey, I like your shoes you're wearing. Where did you get them? Right? Or learn how to establish rapport, try different strategies. If all else fails, even talk about weather. But that human aspect, if that's something that doesn't come naturally, that's perfectly fine. It's a simple skill that everyone can acquire with some practice, and your real life gives you plenty of opportunities to do that multiple times a day. All right. The other attitude that is very important is selling is giving something of value to your customers that releases their pain. It's not following up 6,000 times and being in their face and being annoying. If you truly believe, which you should, that your customers are in pain and you created something that can relieve their pain, then you would want them to know about it because you're providing a very valuable service and they will thank you as a result, right? And so having that attitude is so, so critical, even though every new product, of course, is full of bugs and have a variety of shortcomings because it's just brand new, you still know that it can provide value to your customers. And that what gives you that confidence and that passion to get them on board and be part of your universe and paying for your service. The other bit that is very important is what we naturally do when we think of selling and actually trying to sell is we talk 70% of time and we listen 30% of time. The reality is that selling is listening, right? You start by not only showcasing every feature in your product, but you start by really understanding the context of your customer. What is their current state? How they're currently solving problems, what their problems are. And then when you talk about your solution, you talk about it in a context of what they shared and sharing relevant examples in relevant ways that it can really help them solve that problem. So that's why listening for you guys, introverts out there, it's more important than talking. So maybe you already have a leg up here. And then the last bit is you don't say, can you please give me some money? Because sale is a value exchange. You're giving a service to the customers, your software solution or other tech-enabled services you provide, and then they pay you money, right? If, again, you're relieving that pain. And so you wouldn't go to a pharmacy and say, hey, give me pain reliever for free, because it just doesn't happen, right? Every pain reliever costs money. And that's what exactly happens in this case. So don't be afraid to ask for money. This is something that is part of the sales process, and you just have to train yourself to name the price. And we'll talk about really the pricing in the later modules as well. And the last myth, and I love this from Pete Kaczynski, who gave fantastic examples of companies who kind of mislead us a bit, right? They talk about Slack, Dropbox, Atlassian. They talk about we don't have salespeople. And that's not really true when you look at the evolution of their companies, because in order to scale big, they all got sales people, even though the way they went to market initially was product led. And then there are companies, again, that are more technical. And so they can get to some point, again, without salespeople. But when they tell you they don't have salespeople, people don't come when you build it, right? You have to go get those people, even though you can later on orchestrate inbound strategies, product-led strategies, and many other strategies that help you grow and scale.